Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Mel from MelDidItHerself, and I'm a social service worker turned furniture refinisher, DIYer, small business owner, and content creator. I've learned everything I know about these industries thanks to people who shared their knowledge on the internet. So I'm paying it forward by bringing you my tips, lessons learned, and sharing my journey in this space with you. So thank you so much for being here, being curious, and being a lifelong learner like me. Let's hop into it. What is up, my friends and fellow busybees? I hope you're doing well, feeling calm and organized, and like you have everything completed off of your to-do list with a freshly cleaned and immaculate home, and you're well fed with a healthy, nourishing meal in your body. You've gotten the chance to move your body today and got some time to stretch and relax and rejuvenate. Just kidding. I mean, if that is the case and you can tick all of those boxes, then truly a big kudos to you. That's amazing. And that is the goal. However, if you started laughing and rolling your eyes by the time I said have everything completed off of your to-do list, don't worry. I'm right there with you. It's not easy keeping up all of the time. And sometimes even any of the time. I don't even have kids or pets yet, but I know for me that it's a constant battle to have a stocked kitchen, cook and eat meals that I know are good for my body, move my body, sweat, keep a tidy and organized house, spend time with my loved ones, keep up with paying the bills and remembering appointments and completing paperwork for this and that and the other thing. And that doesn't even start to look at my business that I'm trying to run and make successful with bookkeeping, high-level planning, content creation, pitching sponsorships and partnerships, organizing and planning custom projects, working on custom pieces and planning and executing and posting and selling my own designs, just to name a few things. Oh, and planning and going on a couple of vacations. That's much more fun than the rest, but still requires some brain power and planning and laundry and things like that. So, safe to say, whatever our circumstances may be, we all have a lot on our plates at any given time. Wow, it really does feel like a lot when you start to go through it like that, doesn't it? And I know if you're a parent to a human baby or a fur baby, you've got about, 20,000 extra things added on top of that. So let's just take a second here and do a little box breathing because I don't want us going into this episode all hopped up on stress and anxiety. Let's take a deep breath in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you need to, feel free to pause here and go back and do that a couple more times. It's scientifically proven to chill you out, and I try and do it whenever I start to notice myself spiraling or just my heartbeat starting to race to knock me out of it. But not to fear. Life is busy, and if you're either a part-time or full-time furniture refinisher and painter who has made their business official, you know you have a lot of things that go into the business. But I want to help ease some of those tasks and help you streamline some of the administrative sides of the work, because I know we all prefer to be out in our workshop doing what we love most and not stuck behind a computer filling out endless lists and trying to remember what the hell we were supposed to be doing. And if you're someone who hasn't turned your furniture refinishing into a business at this point in time, no worries. I think you'll still get a lot of value out of this episode and some ways you can apply the approaches and tactics we'll be talking about today to your life more generally or in other sectors. However, I will say, if you are someone who has had the thought that you might want to try officially having a business selling your furniture makeovers, you are in the right place, my friend. I came from the world of social work and victimology, so I had absolutely no idea what to do when I decided I wanted to start a business doing furniture painting and refinishing. So if that's you and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing and how does this all work? I got you. I put together a free guide and checklist for starting your own furniture refinishing business so you can get started today and follow a step-by-step roadmap so you don't miss anything important. I also recommend this for anyone who found themselves unexpectedly running a business selling their refinished furniture, because that's often what happens, right? You do a couple pieces for your own home and then do some for friends, then get convinced to sell them, and then bam, you're a business owner and you didn't even know it. So if that is you, I also think you'll really benefit from this guide and checklist to help you make sure you've ticked all of the boxes and you're not missing anything important that you ought to be implementing. So check out the show notes of today's episode for the link, or go to my website, MelDidItHerself.ca, to download the free guide and checklist today, and let's get you started on the right foot. All right, so now let's talk admin work. Some people love it, some hate it. Depending on the day, I fall somewhere in the middle. I really enjoy getting into the state of flow some days and whipping out a bunch of stuff because it feels really productive, but it really does take some intentionality for me to get into that state to do it, so it probably doesn't happen as often as it should. But since I picked up on that early in my journey in business, I decided that I was going to take some time up front to streamline some things and create some systems to help my future self out so that I wouldn't have to spend so much time glued to the computer that take more time than they need to. And as a side note, if you find you have a mind that wanders or gets easily distracted when you sit down to do this kind of work, first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, here's some things that I have found that help me. Sitting somewhere intentional for working instead of where I usually sit when I'm playing on my phone or watching TV so that my brain knows that it's work time. Wearing my AirPods with brown noise playing. There's other types of concentration music that you can find, like white noise or just other classical music and other jingles that don't have lyrics. But I have found that brown noise is the one that really turns my brain off of distraction mode the best and really helps me focus. That or the Mario Kart soundtrack, funnily enough. Also, make sure that you have everything you need when you sit down. If your feet tend to get cold when you sit for long periods of time like me, make sure you're wearing slippers. Have a coffee and a water bottle beside you, or whatever you normally want to drink. Maybe some lip chap. I play with my hair incessantly, so I make sure that it's up in a bun where I can't mess around with it and get distracted. Figure out what works for you and have that stuff there or not there to help you really get into the zone. And finally, and most importantly, leave your phone in another room. And make sure your AirPods aren't set up to announce notifications. You'll survive, I promise, and I guarantee you'll get far more accomplished than you would have otherwise with it sitting screen up beside you, or even just within arm's reach, because we just grab it and check it when we don't need it, right? It's just like second nature now. We just grab it and look at it. It's disgusting if you look at the app on your phone that tells you how many times you've looked at the screen or you've gone into a certain app or whatever during the day. Like, it's actually disgusting. So put it away. Okay, so the big overarching theme of what you want to do to streamline your admin work in your business is to set up systems, simple systems, and maintain them at regular intervals. And when I say systems, I don't just mean that we're going to find a software or website or some other sort of tool for every single thing that we have to do, because that's just as chaotic as our lives already are. It just means that it would now be chaotic online. You want to look into systems that would be able to do multiple things at once, so that there are only a couple of places that you would need to go looking when you needed something or needed to complete one of these tasks. One of these systems I have set up is Google Drive. Very easy, very straightforward, which is essentially where I house anything business related, whether it be things for the podcast, any contracts, client testimonials and photos, my CRM, my goal planning, any engagement spreadsheets I maintain, my media kit, personal development resources I've acquired during my learning, and SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. So if and when I can hire on employees one day, I'll already have it written out how I do any of the big tasks that I complete on repeat week to week. It's great to have everything in one place, and it's very organized into a folder hierarchy system that I actively maintain when I'm adding new documents or photos, so I'll always know where things are when I need them. Another system I've implemented since the day I went official in my business is using QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks self-employed, and it has been an awesome one-stop shop to keep track of all of my income, expenses, mileage, and project estimates and invoices all in one spot. It has a free trial, but it is a paid service. I think at full price, I pay like $11 a month. And I believe in it so much that I actually applied to be an affiliate with QuickBooks. So I do have a code if you're interested in trying it out for yourself and seeing how it works. I will link it in the show notes of this episode, and you can get 30% off of your first 6 months. I like using it not only because it keeps all of these things in one place, but as someone who files their own taxes using tax software, QuickBooks makes it so easy because as you file your expenses, you categorize them appropriately, and it explains each category, which is like really helpful for me because I don't really know what anything is. And then at tax time, the software can spit out your accumulated totals for each expense category, which makes it super, super easy to file. Last year was my first year filing for my business, and let me tell you, I was shook at how easy it ended up being. Like, I was stressed before, I was putting it off because I thought it was going to be really long and really hard to do. But because I had the foresight to set this up right away and maintain it throughout the year, it was so quick and so easy. So again, feel free to use the code in the show notes, but even if you don't want to choose this program exactly, I definitely recommend you find one that works for you, your budget, and that is easy to use for you, because that is what's going to make it so much more sustainable to upkeep throughout the year. Along with this, I recommend you have a system for keeping track of your paper receipts so that you don't lose the hard copy, because if you ever get audited, you will definitely need this handy. The system does not have to be fancy. If I'm being honest, I just put all the receipts from each calendar year into a freezer bag with the year written on it in Sharpie. Quick, easy, to the point, and it makes it compact for storage longer term. I also recommend you track your income as it is received, and don't assume that you'll remember to go back and input it all when you input your expenses if you don't do that in real time. Because more than likely, since there probably isn't an actual bill of sale that you're physically hanging on to from the sale, you might end up losing track of some transactions, and then your books will be off and it will be annoying and chaotic. We're trying to avoid chaos here. In terms of tracking your receipts and expenses, like I said, you can totally do that in real time if that's the most efficient way for you to do it, and you find it easier to just have one or two to track at a time instead of stockpiling them for a certain amount of time before you add them into your system. Personally, I find the stockpiling method with a set timeline, though, the most efficient way for me to streamline this task. It takes me a little bit of time to get into the groove and get into the state of flow where I can whip them out pretty quickly and am not getting distracted while doing so. So this works great for me. I used to try to do it once per week, so it wasn't a whole lot that I was having to go through at once. Now it's more like once per month, maybe even a little less frequently than that at times, depending how busy things are. But the more I book that time deliberately into my calendar and just get it done, the more I thank myself later, because I know if I leave it till the end of the year, I'll leave it to the very last second, I'll hate my life, I'll have a million other things going on at the same time, and I'll be like, why didn't I just do it now? So I'm trying to set myself up for success here. And this approach is an effective example of my next tip for streamlining your administrative work in your business. Block off a specific block of time. For me, it's the morning of the first of the month, every month, and only do admin work in that time block. It's hard for our brains to switch willy-nilly from focused, detail-oriented admin work and number inputting and things like that to strategic, creative, high-level thinking or planning. So tracking a few expenses and then hopping over to planning out your goals for the next quarter immediately after might not be the most efficient thing to be doing. And I know for me, it can be so easy to do that, just hop from one thing to the other once I get bored with it, or, trying to do too many things at once. So having it be this approach where I'm only doing this type of work at once really helps me to get things actually done, completely done, and off of my plate in a more efficient block of time. I time block the morning of the first of the month, and sometimes I only need an hour or two of that time. Even better. But at least I know that I have the time allocated to get those things done. During that time, I will track any of the outstanding paper and digital receipts and expenses I have that have not made their way to the freezer bag for the year yet. I'll also fill in my content planner notebook and take note of my follower count on my social media platforms because I like to keep a record to see how and if I'm growing. Plus, I fill in how many times I posted on each platform in that same notebook, if I accomplished the monthly goals that I had set, and I get the page for the following month set up and write out the goals that I have for that month based on where I'm at. I've used the content planner for the last couple years, and as someone who really enjoys using a pen and paper approach, but often turns to technology since it's typically more quick and streamlined, I love that this is the one old school, quote unquote, thing that I have kept. It's great because it gives me a chance to unplug from technology, so I'm not just constantly staring at a screen as I work on business related things, and then later as I scroll TikTok for hours endlessly. And it's something that's more tangible that I can turn to and look back on to see how I've grown. Sometime in an upcoming episode, I would love to go back and look at my numbers from when I first started using my content planner, because I think that could be very motivating to others, that it can be a slow burn as you grow and you can still hit those higher numbers over time. The content planner, for the record, I kind of don't use it for its intended purpose. It's to help you plan out when you're going to be posting on your socials. In theory, that's how it's set up, but I kind of use it retroactively. But it's still a beautiful notebook and gets the job done. So I highly recommend you check it out. They're a great small business, Canadian, that I love to support. The last big thing I complete during this time of the month, not that time of the month, during the first of the month in that hour time block, are 2 spreadsheets that I've put together to monitor my social content analytics. Once I input the data into these spreadsheets that I've made, it calculates my engagement rates using 2 different formulas on Instagram and TikTok for the month. So I can keep a record of things like the amount of accounts I reached that month, how many interactions I'm getting on posts, which posts performed best, and then I do an analysis of those posts and why they performed better than the others so that I can ideally keep those elements in mind as I plan out future content. Based on the outcome of these spreadsheets, I may also use this time to update my media kit if there has been any drastic changes in the numbers on there that I should reflect when pitching brands. And if you're someone listening to this who has a furniture painting and refinishing business and you're like, what the fuck? I don't know what any of those things are and I don't use any of those things and should I be doing those things and I'm totally lost? Don't worry. Those items are part of my content strategy and are elements of my business because I aim to be able to partner with brands and other creators that align with me, my business, and my values to be able to add a revenue stream into my business. And knowing the numbers is a part of that, but if you're just here to sell some pretty painted pieces, fret not. You're doing everything you need to be as long as you're tracking income and expenses and mileage. And my last tip for streamlining your admin work in your furniture upcycling business is one that might sting a little, so brace yourself. You need to get your inbox under control, babe. I'm sorry to say it, but I think you know it anyways. Listen, I like to say that I work from a functional 0 inbox by the end of the day. That's manageable for me because I decided that that was going to be my approach early on and I've maintained it for the most part. When I didn't maintain it as well, I would block off time to specifically work on getting it back there. What I mean by functional 0 is that my inbox isn't typically actually sitting at 0 unread messages. However, any unread messages in there is something that I'm waiting to action. For example, at the time of recording this, I have 20 unread messages, so I don't have any promotional emails, anything urgent, or anything else in there sitting unread. If a client is contacting me, I'm doing my darndest to get back to them that same day. If I have emails from other businesses or creators that I'm on the mailing list of and I want to read their message, I'll usually do it in the moment when I see the notification, or at least I'll give it a quick scan. Or sometimes, if there's just a lot going on, I'll just mark it as read if I don't think that it's super important. But dear God, please just don't leave it unread and let that number rise and rise and rise and say stuff like, oh, those aren't anything important. Like, I've already dealt with the things that I need to. Then, girl, why are they still there? delete them, mark them all as read, something. Whether you know it or not, that humongous number beside your inbox is stressing you out and making you feel like you haven't closed a loop, whether it's subconscious or not. So figure it out. This is tough love, because I think you might need it. All right, and another system that I set up that allows me to save things of interest to me that come in through my email but doesn't clog up my inbox is creating some folders in my Google Chrome bookmarks bar where I can save applicable and relevant things that I will want to access again. So, for example, if I get an email from Amy Porterfield, who is a digital marketer that I admire, and I listen to her podcasts and I receive her emails. I'm on her email list, and she shares a resource that she found super useful, like a tool for email marketing or something. I'll open the link to the website, and if I don't have time to navigate it and check it out right now, or if I know that this is a tool that I don't currently need in my business but would be good to know once I get to another step in my growth in business, I'll just save the web page into my apps/tools folder on Chrome for safekeeping. It's tidy, it's out of my face, and it means that I don't need to have that email sitting there for months and maybe years before I actually need it. Or worse yet, I mark it as read thinking I'll be able to go back when the time is right, and then I forget about it altogether, and then when I get to the point of needing something like said tool, I don't have any starting point and I'm just randomly Googling trying to find something. So examples of folders that I've created that have quite a few things saved under them include podcasts, so anything related to the podcast, creating, posting, etc. Collab platforms, books where I save books I want to check out, apps/tools like I spoke about, personal development, and to read, which is articles or web pages that I want to read but just haven't gotten the chance to. This approach is super handy and it has helped my inbox out a ton because as a lifelong learner, I love to be able to digest this information and content, but I prefer to do it without it clogging up my life and stressing me out. And something you may not know about me, I love little motivational messages. They literally always get me fired up, and I keep a running list of ones that are especially catchy or speak to me in the Notes app on my phone. So I'm going to end every podcast episode with one of those that I've noted down over the years in hopes that you leave our time here each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on whatever comes your way this week. So this week's Mel's motivational message is, if you don't want to burn out, quit living like you're on fire. And this is one that I really like. I think I kind of just use it in conversation now because it paints such a picture, right? If you don't want to burn out, quit living like you're on fire. So when we look at all of the administrative tasks that can go into owning and running and maintaining and growing a business, the tasks can truly be endless. It's why a lot of people end up hiring a virtual assistant because they just can't really keep up as a one-person show. And the more things you want to take on, the more administrative tasks that tend to come with it, right? So you can spend so much time incessantly working on those things that aren't actually the thing that you got into business to do. And it can feel never ending. You can feel like you're working nonstop on these things, but you're not really getting anywhere or getting anything fully accomplished, which is a horrible feeling to have and feels kind of dooming, right? So when you see this going and going and going and there doesn't seem to be an end to it because you want to just have your business for the rest of forever, right? And you want it to be successful, but it's hard to see the light at the end of that tunnel if you're just incessantly doing these things and they're not even the things that really light you up that you got into business to do, the thing that you're passionate about. Maybe it's refinishing furniture, maybe it's something completely different because you don't do that and you just like to listen to this podcast, which thanks for being here if that's you. But you see what I'm saying? If you don't take the time to streamline these things, to take the time up front, create the systems, find a system that works really well for you and that you're willing to long-term maintain, then you're just going to constantly have that feeling like you're on fire, like you're chaotic and you're not really doing anything, but you're also doing everything. So if you don't want to burn out, quit living like you're on fire. Find those workarounds, find those ways that you can get yourself organized, Find a sense of calm about the things that you do. Maybe you choose a larger chunk of time to work on these things, but you do it less frequently so you get more done all at once, like I suggested in tip number 1. Whatever it is, I can't say what that system or that approach will be that'll necessarily be the thing that clicks for you, because we're all so different. But these are some of the things that have helped me. And again, I have a brain that can be kind of everywhere at once. Sitting down and concentrating on one certain thing isn't something that I do naturally. I naturally have a tendency to want to multitask. I know that means that I do 2 things less well, but I get 2 things done, maybe faster, maybe not. But I've seen it be proven that when I take these approaches and I'm a little bit more intentional and I take the time up front to set it up, and then the key, unfortunately, is to maintain and continue to do those things day in, day out, week in, week out, etc., that it just makes your life so much easier in the long run. It'll feel foreign at first. It'll feel like you're really having to think about and be intentional about doing these things. But pretty soon, it will just be second nature to you, and you will just book in the time or hop onto the whatever tool you're using or whatever, and you won't even have to really think about it. But when you start having that free time, that downtime that you weren't having before because you took the time to implement these kinds of systems, take a second to appreciate that and to appreciate your former self for setting that up, because, like I said, we're doing a couple vacations recently, and I've been taking some time to, during the day, go away and do something, go for a hike or a walk or whatever, because these are the reasons that I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to have that time freedom and be able to do what I wanted, where I wanted, with who I wanted, but still make money and have a successful business doing the things I love. And I sat down and I thought, what do I need to do to be able to have more of that time available to me while still maintaining all the things that I need to do? So I highly recommend you take some time. We're approaching the end of the year, so it can be easy to say, I'll do that next year. I would like to challenge you to start trying to do it today. If you don't have the time to do that planning today, book a time into your calendar to go and do it, because, like I said, the longer you wait, the longer you're putting off that satisfaction, that relaxation, that breathing room, that thinking room that is going to come your way if you take these approaches. And if you're enjoying the podcast so far, I would love it if you would go to the podcast page on whatever platform you're listening on today and leave me a rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review letting everyone know why you love to listen in every week and why they should too, because that will just help to get this pushed out to more people to discover and join us on this furniture refinishing ride. I think it's a pretty great ride, personally. A little bit biased, but whatever. All right, that's it for now. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys next week.